These two groups of Marvel heroes just do not get along. And I'm going to prove that today. So let's mix up Iron Man with Spider-Man. In fact, let's do it face down so that none of us can see where the cards are. Okay. So as a group, they can't stand these two over here. So let's mix them up so that we don't know where they are. Okay. Now we're going to mix these two groups as thoroughly as we can. And you're going to make a lot of the important choices, by the way. In fact, you could do all of the mixing if you were here. So what I need you to do is I need you to state any or all of these four Marvel heroes by name, and I'll go ahead and spell out their names. So it's Iron Man, Spider-Man, Hawkeye, and Luke Cage. Would you like me to spell out any of them? You would. Hawkeye. Okay. H-A-W-E-Y-E. Okay. Would you like me to spell any others? Iron Man. I-R-O-N-M-A-N. Okay. Any others? Maybe one more? Spider-Man. Okay. S-P-I-D-E-R-M-A-N. Okay, very good. Now you need to realize that that was a free choice. Okay. So I didn't choose those because I wanted them. Whatever names you would have named, I would have spelt them out. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to deal out the cards into 6 piles without making too big of a mess here. And now what I need you to do is I need you to tell me which one would you like me to pick up first. 2 in from the left, okay. Far right, okay. Far left, that's fine. What's in middle? And then the right. And then the last one goes on top. Okay, now if you were here, I would have you randomly cut the cards as many times as you like. Another way to achieve that is just doing a Charlier shuffle, which is what I'm doing here. Okay, so really none of us know where the cards are. And now what we're going to do to really, really mix these cards is we're going to perform a shuffle that is notorious for destroying the ordering of cards. It truly is. It's called the Australian Down Under. So how this works is you put the first card down, the next one goes under, down, 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 under, down. The last one goes on top. Okay, so if you think about the movement of the cards, these cards are being scrambled to a degree that no human could possibly know where anything is. Okay, why don't we go ahead and follow it up with something called a Klondike. This is a good shuffle as well because it takes the top and bottom cards off together and brings them as a pair to the table. And now what we're going to do is we're going to mix the cards face up, face down. So what I need you to do now is tell me if you would like this pair set down as is or flipped over first. You want it flipped? Okay. Leave or flip? Leave it the way it is. Leave. Flip. Flip. Leave. Okay, very good. Why don't we go ahead and do 4 of them at a time? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Would you like me to leave it as is or flip it over? You'd like it flipped? Okay. Leave that one and flip this one. Very, very good. Okay. We can also perform some other kinds of mixing to just randomize these cards. I'm going to begin dealing the cards into piles from left to right until you tell me to stop dealing. So stop. Okay. Stop there. Stop. And that one goes there. Okay. We'll stack those from right to left to really scramble those. Why don't we even do 6 at a time? So there's 3, 4, 5, 6. Would you like me to leave these or flip them? What about these 6? Leave. Okay, very, very good. Okay, now what we're going to do is do some additional randomization. Oh boy. So would you like right on left or left on, you want right on left? Okay. And so let's go ahead and do maybe one more Klondike. And I just want to drive home how mixed these cards are. Think about it. Even if you knew where one card was at the beginning, how difficult it would be to follow even one card, let alone 12 of them. So if you need to rewind the video and look at the mixing and think, okay, who could keep track of all 12 of those? Nobody could. You would have to be a superhero. In fact, maybe one of these superheroes can do that. Okay, so finally what we're going to do is I'm just going to deal them out into 4 piles, like so. Okay, and we're going to do a folding procedure. So we can kind of move from left to right, right to left. We can actually go inside out or outside in. It's your choice. You want to go inside out? Okay, that's fun. This is where you take the inside ones and you flip them and set them like there. Where would you like this one? This one on top of that one or vice versa? You want this one over here, and we'll flip it and set it on top. Okay, wow, think of all of that mixing. Well, where has that brought us? Because I'm OCD, I'm going to go ahead and set some of these the right way up because these cards are directional. But I want to take a look at what cards are face up and what cards are face down. Okay, there we go. There we go. This is interesting. No way. No way. Are you telling me that Luke Cage and Hawkeye have all separated themselves in a face-up orientation versus you know who, Iron Man and Spider-Man? I think they do separate, just like oil and water. How is that possible? I think there truly is something to these two sets of friends where they just do not get along together. They will eventually always separate like oil and water. Okay, so how in the world is this done? Okay, so just think about all of the mixing that we did. How in the world were we able to finish with each set of friends facing one way and the other set of friends facing the other? Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the tutorial. Okay, so how does this effect work? Well, right off I need to tell you that it's using principles from my series that deals with something called the Hummer principle. Now this is an extremely powerful mathematical principle, and I have a whole series and many effects actually based on the Hummer principle. So there's only so much I can explain here as to why things work, but I can certainly give you all of the steps and explain the mechanics so that you could do this right away. So what I needed for this was 3 Iron Men, which I have, and then 3 Spider-Men right there. And I also needed 3 Hawkeye characters, which I have right there, and 3 Luke Cages right there. Okay. So those are the 2 sets of friends, and these sets of friends really don't get along with the others. In fact, they'll separate like oil and water eventually. So what you do, now these can be freely mixed within each of the sets of friends, so you can mix these however you want. Same thing here, these can be mixed up however the spectator would like. Okay. Now once you've mixed those sets of friends, you can just have the spectator decide, which group gets set on top of the other. It doesn't actually matter. Okay, so let's go ahead and just kind of square these up the best I can. Okay, so what this has done is the top half, of course, consists of Iron Man and Spider-Man in some order, and the bottom half consists of Hawkeye and Luke Cage in some order. So what I did was I said, okay, we can go ahead and spell out any of their names of these 4 characters. Okay, now this code stands for count out and transfer. That just means deal out a certain number and then drop the rest on top. That's what it stands for. So if you look at the names here, each name of these characters has at least 6 letters. In fact, Hawkeye is the shortest. Well, what that will mean is since the top 6 are kind of one kind, that's one set of friends, and the bottom 6 are another set of friends. In fact, let's just go ahead and do Hawkeye. So just think through what's happening. The top 6 are one set of friends. So if I do H-A-W-E-Y-E, there's 6 cards right there. Okay? So that means whatever was on top will now be on the bottom. So essentially, all I've done is I've switched the positions of those 2 sets of friends. Now that same thing will happen even if you spell out more than 6. And that's something you can play with. If you set up a packet of, let's say, 6 red cards and 6 black cards, and you spell out 6 or more, deal out 6 or more of those cards and drop the rest on top, it will leave the black and red cards separated. Okay, so you can experiment with that to convince yourself that that is indeed the case. Then what we did was we dealt out the cards into 6 piles. Well, just think about what's happening. Okay, so the top 6 are going to be, let's say, Spider-Man and Iron Man. Okay, we don't know for sure, but the top 6 will be one set of friends. Now, so these are all friends here, and now these are all friends for the next level. Okay, that's important. So if you think about this, we could say friends 1 and 2, the sets 1 and 2. So this could be the bottom level could be the first set of friends, and then the top will be the other set of friends. Now that will be true for every pair. Well, what happens is no matter how you stack these, whatever order you stack them in, you're going to create what's called an alternating packet. An alternating packet. What does that mean? Well, that just means you'll have character from each set alternating. So here's a Luke Cage, upside down, Spider-Man, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Luke Cage, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Iron Man. So if you caught that, it's alternating sets of friends is all it's doing. Well, since this is alternating, it's called a cyclic packet. Now, cyclic packets can be cut anywhere without changing that characteristic. And in fact, an even better way of mixing that's equivalent to just cutting the cards at some location is something called the Charlier Shuffle. Now, I actually have a separate video that talks about and shows you what the Charlier Shuffle is and explains what it does, but it's a very powerful shuffle because it gives the illusion of really scrambling the cards when in fact all we've done is cut the cards at some location. It's really equivalent to just cutting the cards somewhere and dropping and then switching the halves. Okay, now from there I introduced a powerful shuffle. It's called the Australian Down Under. And what I said about the Australian Shuffle is true. The Australian Shuffle is one of the most destructive shuffles for small packet sizes out there. It really does destroy things. So how this works is you go down, under, 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 down. Last one goes on top. Now, if you stop there, all is lost. The order of these cards is going to be a mess. But it ends up, and this is talked about in my series on the Hummer principle, if you pair the Down Under Shuffle with a Klondike, it respects or preserves alternating packets. Okay? Now, to my knowledge, that is not known by anyone out there. Okay, so that's an original result or original finding there. So we haven't actually harmed the alternating structure. Maybe I'll just go ahead and verify that for you. So we're wanting Hawkeye and Luke Cage to alternate with Iron Man and Spider-Man. Okay, so there's Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Luke Cage, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Luke Cage, and then Spider-Man. Okay, so it's still an alternating packet. Isn't that amazing? Okay, now, one of the standard routines for a Hummer performance is you have the cards of interest, special cards, in the even positions and or in the odd positions. And that's what we have here. We have these two sets of friends that really don't like each other. In one set's in the odd positions of the cards, and the other's in the even positions. Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do is something called a Hummer shuffle. So a Hummer shuffle goes as follows. It's random cutting, and then you flip 2. Random cutting, flip 2. Randomly cut, flip 2. Okay, and you can do as many of these as you like. This is called a Hummer shuffle. Now the way that I did it, which is equivalent, is I pushed off cards and I said, do you want me to leave these as is or flip them over? Maybe they'll ask for flip. Leave or flip. Maybe leave them. Leave them. Flip them. Flip. And then leave. Okay? So what I just did in hand a moment ago and what I just now did on the table, those accomplish the same thing. They're different ways of performing what's called a Hummer shuffle. Now it ends up that you don't have to work with just 2 cards. You can work with any even number. So you can give the spectator the choice, leave it as is or flip it over first. Maybe they'll say flip. Okay, leave or flip. Maybe they'll just leave it. The remaining 4, maybe they'll say flip. Okay. Now we can even do it for 6 cards if you would like. Okay. And something else we can do, which I actually didn't do, but you could include this, is you can perform what are called odd size coats. Well, what that means is you can spell out an odd number of letters or deal an odd number of cards, and it won't undermine where we're headed. So, for example, Iron Man has an odd number of letters. It has 7 letters. So you could do I, R, O, N, M, A, and drop the rest on top. That won't harm anything in the world of Hummerism. You could spell Spider-Man because it's S-P-I-D-E-R, that's 6 letters, M-A-N, that's a total of 9, which is odd, okay? Now what you would not want to do is spell these others. You would not give that as a choice because here that's 8 letters. Hawkeye is 6. Okay, so at this stage, if you're going to do this spelling out, it's only those 2 names that we are safe to use. Okay, and then what we did is some final kind of mixing. If you do a left-right with random stacking, now you can include this or exclude it. I mean, many of these elements can be included or excluded if you would like to kind of shorten things. And then random stacking, as I mentioned. So that's the LR part. And then the K, of course, is the Klondike. That stands for Klondike. So this is where you take the top and bottom cards off as 1 and then drop them down on top of the growing pile. And then we're almost finished. what we do is an LR, a deal into 4 piles. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like this. Now the spectator is free. We're going to perform what's called a folding procedure. So what this means is we're going to fold the packets on top of each other from left to right, right to left. We can actually go inside out, or we can start at the outside and go in. Okay? So we did an inside out. Why don't we just do a left to right so you can kind of see how that works. So you're like folding it like you would the pages of a book. You're just folding it up like that. Okay? Now, believe it or not, what is guaranteed to happen is those 2 sets of friends, Spider-Man and Iron Man on one side, Hawkeye and Luke Cage on the other side, they are guaranteed as sets of 6 cards each to be facing the opposite way. Okay? So in that sense, we're separating them, just like oil and water would just separate. Here they're facing the opposite way, like they can't even face each other. They can't stand to even look at each other. Okay, so let's check that. So here's Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Ooh, Iron Man. Very good. We don't know about that one. Iron Man. We don't know about that one. Ooh, there's a Spider-Man. We don't know about that one. Or this one, or this one, or this one, but here is Iron Man. So what that means then is we have indeed separated these 2 sets of friends just like oil and water. Okay, so that is the performance, and that's how it is done. And if you want to understand more about what's driving all of it and how it works and why it works, so that you can create your own original card magic, then take a look at the series on the Hummer principle. There's a lot of material there that will kind of help you learn everything you would need to know for this, but also learn much, much more that will take you far beyond what we've shown in this routine. So thank you for watching, and I hope you take a look at other videos on the Hidden Structures channel.